make the granny square cardigan, you're going to need weight 4 yarn, worsted weight, about 930 yards for a size small. I'm using Hobby Lobby's Yarn B Soft and Sleek Low Pill Fiber in the color Windswept Wishes. I love this yarn because it is variegated and I wouldn't have to change color every round, but that's something that's totally up to you if you want to do. You also need a 6mm hook, measuring tape, scissors, and a darning needle. The granny square cardigan is composed of 54 of these traditional granny squares and 2 half granny squares. So to make it larger, I would recommend using a hook size that is larger, and then also adding a row that would probably add about an inch of leeway between your measurement. And I recommend measuring out your body and seeing how many granny squares you need to make up for your measurement. And that way you will know exactly how many you need. To create your first granny square, you're going to grab your yarn and you're going to create a slip knot. There are multiple ways to make a traditional granny square, but I found this to be the easiest way for me. You can also use an invisible circle, but in this method we're going to be chaining 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to slip stitch into the first chain of your chain 4 to make a loop, and then you're going to chain 3, which counts as a double crochet, and into the center loop right there you're going to create 2 more double crochets. And I like to work around the non-working yarn just so I can tighten up the loop later, which I'll show you. So double crochet twice, and to create the corner you're going to chain 2, and then the next step we're going to double crochet 3 times, counts as a cluster, okay, and then you're going to chain 2 for another corner, and then you're going to go back in and create another cluster, which is 3 double crochets. And at this point you want to try to move your double crochets to the start so that you have room for the last cluster. You're going to chain 2 and then 3 double crochets into the loop. And like I said, as long as you're working over the non-working yarn, you can actually tighten this little hole right here by just pulling on it, like the invisible stitch method or invisible start method. You can actually tighten it if you work around this non-working yarn. So to make the last corner, you're just going to chain 2, and then the third chain that you made, you're going to slip stitch into there. Since we won't be changing color, I'm going to be inserting my hook into the second stitch and slip stitch into the third, or the second, since we only made 2 DCs in the first round. And then you're going to slip stitch into the chain space, and then chain 3 counts as a double crochet, so we're going to double crochet twice to make our first cluster. Okay, we need a corner, so we're going to chain 2, then a cluster, so 3 double crochets into the same chain space. Okay, so now we're going to skip over to this next chain space. We're going to do that by chaining 1, and then making a cluster into the next chain space. So 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochet. For the corner, and then you're gonna work 3 more double crochets into the same chain space. Okay, chain 1, slip stitch into the third chain that you made. I'm only slip stitching into the back loops because I feel like it doesn't pull away from the other double crochets too much and leave a gap, and it's also the easiest way to just slip it in there and then create a slip stitch. Slip stitch into the next 2 stitches and into the chain space to get to our corner. And now you're going to see it starts to resemble a little square. We're going to repeat the process by chaining 3. Again, counts as a double crochet, so we're just going to double crochet twice to get our first cluster. Now we need a corner, so we're going to chain 2 and then a cluster again. So 3 double crochets. And as you can see, it's going to be the same process. Every time you want to skip to a chain space, you want to chain 1 and then do 1 cluster into this side chain space. Okay, and then we're going to chain 1 to get to the next chain space. You're going to do a cluster. Since this is a corner, you're going to need to chain 2 and do another cluster. Okay, chain 2 and then another cluster. Okay, get to the next chain space, you chain 1, next chain space, just 1 cluster because it isn't a corner space. And this is basically how you got to repeat the process of building your granny square, especially if you want a larger one. You're just going to repeat the process of chaining 3, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 1, 1 cluster into the side chain space, and just continue on like that until you reach what measurement you want for your granny square. I'm going to be working 4 rows because I want my granny square to be 4 by 4 inches. So just keep working your rows. And then you're going to insert your hook into the 3rd chain, slip stitch there, and then slip stitch into the next stitch and the next one. And also the chain space. So there we have made 3 rows of our granny square. I'm going to make one more because this is going to be a 4 by 4 granny square piece. I want to make one more to fit that measurement. So it's the same process. You're going to be chaining 3, 2 double crochets, and then to get the corner you're going to chain 2 and then 3 double crochets into the same chain space. Okay, chain 1, 3 double crochets into the side chain space, I really advise you buying your yarn at the same time. I know I said you needed about 930 yards for a size small. I recommend buying all the yarn at once so that the dye lot is the same and the colors remain the same. Because as you can see, this one was from a different dye lot and it has a lot more color in the white areas, and then also the colors aren't as dark. Like as you can tell, this one is a lot darker than this blue. I don't know if you can really tell, but everything in this newer dye lot was a lot darker and the white was more crisp. But I actually like the look of the older dye lot, but as long as you mix it in, it should be fine. So I'm just a thought. But now I'm just gonna finish this last round of my granny square. When you get to the end, you're just going to chain 1 and then slip stitch into the 3rd chain that you made at the beginning, and then all you're going to do is cut your yarn and then fasten off. And there you have made your first granny square, and you're going to need 54 of these, and I'm going to come back and show you how to make the half square. This granny square tutorial, you're going to need 2 of these half square granny squares, and I'm going to teach you how to do that right now. You're going to grab your yarn and you're going to create a slip knot. You can also use a magic circle if you like, but we're going to be using the chain 4 method. So I'm going to be chaining 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to slip stitch into the first chain like so, and then you're going to chain 4 again. This counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. You're going to go into the loop and create 3 double crochets. And to create a corner, you're going to chain 2 and then work another 3 double crochets into the loop. going to chain 1 and then double crochet into the loop again. Okay, here you'll have to tighten up your circle, and here you're going to have the start of the triangle. We're going to cut the yarn, fasten off, and then you're going to connect the yarn into the third chain that you made over here. So we're going to insert the hook. I'm just going to insert into the back hook or the back stitch because it's easier. Grab my yarn, pull through, lengthen this a little bit, and then we're going to chain 4. 2, 3, 4. That's going to count as a double crochet and a chain space or a chain. So we're going to double crochet into the chain space. We're going to work 3 double crochets into the chain space right there. And I'm working it over the non-working yarn so we don't have to worry about weaving it in later. There. Chain 1 to get to the chain space, and here we're going to work 2 clusters separated by 2 chains. Okay. There's 3, and then we're going to do 2 chains and then another cluster. Okay, to get to the next chain space, we're going to chain 1, and then into the next chain space, we're going to do 3 double crochets. Chain 1 and 1 double crochet into the same chain space. Okay, you see where our triangle is starting to form. Okay, and then you're going to cut this yarn, fasten it off, and there is the triangle so far. So we're going to need to work 2 more rows. Start back on this side into the 3rd chain, insert your hook, grab your yarn, pull it through, and then we're going to be working again 4 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then into the chain space we're going to be working 3 double crochets. Okay, chain 1 to get to the next chain space. Work a cluster in here, and then you're going to chain 1, work a cluster into the corner, and since this is a corner, we're going to have to chain 2. So chain 2, and then cluster into the same chain space. Okay, to get to the next chain space, we're going to chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain space, single chain, and then 3 double crochets into the last chain space. And then since you're at the end, you're going to want to chain 1 and then 1 more double crochet into the same chain space. Okay, and there is your 3 rounds of your granny's half granny square. So again, we're going to cut this yarn and we're going to do 1 more round. It's going to be the same process. So you're going to grab your yarn, connect it to the 3rd chain over here, pull it through, leave a tail, and you're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then into the chain space we're going to double crochet 3 times. Okay, chain 1 to get to the next chain space, and 3 double crochets into the chain space. Chain 1, 3 double crochets, okay, and then chain 1, 3 double crochets into the corner space, since this is a corner space, you're going to want to chain 2 and then insert your hook into the same chain space and do 3 more double crochets. Okay, and then you're going to create 1 more chain and then 3 double crochets or a cluster in the next chain space. Okay, single chain, 3 double crochets into the next chain space, chain 1, finally 3 double crochets into the last chain space. And since this is the last chain space, we're going to have to chain 1 and then add another double crochet after this cluster. Okay, chain 1 and then 1 more double crochet to finish this row off. Okay, and that should be your completed half square granny square. There you go. And you're just going to want to fasten off and then weave in the ends. You're going to need 2 of these for the front of your cardigan. There you go. Have my 2. And that is how you make a half granny square. So this is how you want your cardigan to lay out. You want 16 panels on the back side, 4 by 4. You want 12 for each sleeve, and then you want about 8 pieces or 7 normal pieces in the front, and then half squares in the little neck area. So to connect our motifs, I'm going to be connecting with the single crochet and chain method. So we're going to be needing a slip knot. Put it onto your hook, tighten it up, and then insert it into the corner space of one of your motifs and create a slip knot. Okay, once you've done that, you can create a single crochet. Okay, chain 2, go into the second motif's corner space, create a single crochet, chain 2, back to the first motif, next chain space, single crochet, chain 2, go to the next one on your second motif, single crochet, chain 2, back to the first one, the next chain space, you're gonna single crochet, chain 2, and then back over here, single crochet, chain 2. So you're just going to repeat this process of going back and forth, chaining 2 and placing a single crochet into the chain space. So there's your single crochet, chain 2, chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, and then the last single crochet in here. Okay, what you can end up looking like is this meshy kind of woven thing, and you're just going to continue this for the rest of the pattern. I recommend doing the horizontal pieces first and then going back and doing the vertical pieces together. So I'll keep showing you one more piece that we're gonna do. So I have my third and fourth pieces here. I'm just gonna go into this bottom one, single crochet, chain 2, go into the corner space of the third one, chain 2, single crochet, single crochet, chain 2, I find this process is easier and quicker than sewing the pieces together, and also it doesn't mind minor imperfections like size on your pieces, so it keeps it a little loose and fun. And you're gonna see as you wear this cardigan, it's gonna have a loosey appearance to it rather than a stitched one. And then you want to fold it along this line right here where the neck is. You want to fold it along that line, and then you want to seam up the sides. Now that you've assembled your cardigan, we're going to work on the edging. And this is the top side of the sleeve and this is the bottom. So I'm going to be working into that chain space right there at the corner. You're going to create a slip knot. Okay, insert your hook. I'm using a 5.5mm hook. You can use the same size, but I feel like this gives it a bit more of a tighter ruching to the sleeves. You can even use a 5.0mm hook if you like, for a tighter fit around the sleeves. So you're just gonna go in with your slip knot and insert it into this chain right here, this chain space, and then create a slip knot. Okay, once you created your slip knot, you're gonna single crochet into the same chain space. Now we're going to be hopping over to our next motif. So when we do that, I've only chained 2 here, so I want to keep that consistent. So I'm going to only chain 2 to jump over to the next chain space of the next motif. So we're going to single crochet into this one. And since there are 3 stitches here, I'm going to do 3 chains. And then I'm going to single crochet into this next chain space. And you're just going to keep doing that. You're going to do chain 3 for each of the chain spaces on the current motif, but when you're skipping to the next motif, you only want to chain 2. So again, I'm going to chain 3, then skip to the next chain space and single crochet, chain 3, corner space, single crochet. Since this is the corner space and we're hopping to the next motif, then we're going to just chain 2 and then single crochet into the corner motif of the next one, and then chain 3 and single crochet. So I'm going to finish up this sleeve edging, and you can follow along if you like. Okay, chain 3, single crochet, chain 3, single crochet into the corner space, chain 2, and let me flip my work around, it's getting rather twisted. Okay, chain 2, hop over to the next corner motif, single crochet, 3 chains, single crochet, 3 chains, single crochet. Here we're going to do 2. Actually, we have reached the end. Did not notice, but I've reached the beginning of my first round of edging. So I'm just going to insert my hook into this single crochet here. Okay, and then you're going to slip stitch. Okay, slip stitch into there. And then now we're going to complete our second and last row of edging. What you want to do is you want to go into this space right here, and you want to single crochet once, and then 2 double crochets. So it creates a kind of like a shell pattern. And you're going to keep repeating that until the very end, where you'll slip stitch into this and end the row. So I'll show you one more time. It's just going to be a single crochet and then 2 double crochets. Okay, again, it's just going to be 1 single crochet and 2 double crochets. Oops. Okay, and when I finish, I'll show you how to slip stitch into the final row. Okay, so I'm finishing up my last row of edging with the little shells that I'm making. So I have 2 more shells. So single crochet and 2 double crochets. Okay, here's the last one. We'll work 1 more single crochet and 2 double crochets. Okay, once you're done with that, you're just going to go into the single crochet of your the first single crochet that you made, and then just slip stitch into there. And that's your edging for the piece. So pretty much you can just cut it off the yarn and then just fasten off. And that's basically how you're going to be doing the edging for the entire piece. You're going to be doing it for both sleeves. So here I have created my edging for both sleeves. For the final step, you want to do edging for this piece right here, which goes along here to the back and then forward and then back over here. So as you can see, you can do it in one continuous round. Just connect your yarn and then do the same process of chaining 3, chaining 2, and then single crochets in each gap space, and then going back as the second round, doing the round of single crochet and then 2 double crochet. And you should be able to make it all the way around like this, and then end in the same space and then do the second row. So some of you might be a little confused when you reach this half square right here when you're working on your edging. So what you want to do is you want to connect it to that chain's corner space, and then you're going to skip this space right here, and then you're going to go into here to create your single crochet, just like this. And this is for the edging, and then you're going to do 3, and then you're going to go into the center hole and work your single crochet. So because this is a half square, you don't really have that extra chain space, so you're gonna just be skipping one of these right here, if that makes sense. Chain 3. Okay, now we're on to the other side. You're gonna skip this chain space right here, and you're gonna insert your hook into the next chain space. Okay, chain 3, and then you're gonna go skip this chain space and go into the corner chain space where you'll make your single crochet. And that's the last tidbit for the edging part that I wanted to get into. Thank you for watching. Please hit like, subscribe, also the notification button so you can get notified to my next patterns. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy making this granny square cardigan with me.